I'm Brandon Jones.
And I'm Daniel Zeigler.
And we did our project over Native American treatment.
So it all began after Reconstruction in the late 1800s and early 1900s. The treatment of American Indians traveling to and from reservations was brutal and inhumane. This torture of the Indians established an unnecessarily civil dispute that would continue to affect the country for many years to come. Many events leading up to the realization of the unfair treatment of Indians came from, for example, the Black Hills Gold Rush, where people entered Indian territory, and also a big one, the Battle of Little Bighorn. Some other significant battles came from South Dakota, like the Massacre of Wounded Knee. Overall, in the late 1800s, Indians have been treated poorly, and for a long period of time, the poor treatment continued, until all the incidents that have happened opened many people's eyes to see how poorly Indians have been treated.
One of the major events that led Indians into lives of poor freedom and strong inequality was an event known as the Black Hills Gold Rush. Almost 1,000 European Americans, led by General Custer, infiltrated the Dakota Territory of the United States looking for gold that was rumored to have been taken by the Sioux Indians. The Dakota area was largely inhabited by the Sioux Indians, however many other smaller groups of Indians were scattered throughout. As these European Americans seized the lands of the natives to hunt for riches, they were attacked. The Sioux Indians had the right to attack these infiltrators for breaking Article 5 of the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1851. In Article 5, it states that the area of Dakota is officially protected Sioux territory. This means that when the European Americans invaded this area, they broke the Treaty of Fort Laramie in 1851. Due to the selfish ways and uncanny thoughts of the European Americans, a battle broke out between the Sioux and the Americans. This would make way for many future disasters, such as the Battle of Little Bighorn and the Massacre of Wounded Knee.
In 1876, the controversy began with the Battle of Little Bighorn. The Sioux and Cheyenne Indians are becoming upset because many Englishmen are coming into the Black Hills and starting to take their land. So it's time for the Indians to step up and take a stand. So like any other day for American troops or Englishmen traveling and happened to come across an Indian village. So the troops' idea was to attack the village, but came to a surprise in the village. There was an army of Indians 3 times the size of the white troops. So fighting began in Reno. An American commander called off his troops and retreated into the timber and brush. Still, the Cheyenne and Sioux Indians, furious with these troops, they pursued them. Then right before the battle was to be over, another group of American troops came from the other side of the river. Crossing the river, the Indians slammed into the advancing troops and forcing them back to the north. Then, another group of Indians commanded by Crazy Horse came downstream and attacked Custer's men, who was an American general, in an instant. Guns and arrows fired everywhere, and it was soon that the Indians smelled blood and was almost time for victory. This battle showed the Indian strength and proved that they were to be treated correctly and fair. As for the commanders, they have a message to bring back to their leader, and that these Indians are not to be messed with. Another big role of the unfair treatment of Indians came with the Massacre of Wounded Knee. What happened was the 7th Regiment arrived at Wounded Knee Creek. There, the group of men surrounded the Indians. The job of the army men was to disarm the Lakota Indians. But of course, it was not to be that easy. So it all started with a tribesman named Black Coyote, who was confronted by the men to give up his gun. Of course he said no, because he claimed he paid for it, but the men did not care and still tried to take it. So Black Coyote shot one of the men on the spot, and the next thing you know, shots were fired all around. And many Indians fled the scene. By the time it was all over, there was a total amount of 150 men, women, and children who were killed. 51 were wounded, all Indians. Indians in this moment felt it was unfair and inhumane that a cavalry of men could come and try to take their weapons. The cavalry, although saw the Indians as a threat with the weapons that they possessed. Although this may be so, the cavalry did do wrong, because the Second Amendment says you have the right to bear arms, although it did not help, and the amendment did not matter in this case.
The Crazy Horse Monument. Deep in the Black Hills of South Dakota is where the Crazy Horse Monument is located. Today, the monument is far from done, as the owner and creator has passed away. Crazy Horse was created to remind the public of the harsh struggle that the Native Americans endured in the battles of Little Bighorn and in the Massacre of Wounded Knee. Chief Crazy Horse and Chief Sitting Bull were the leaders of the Native American uprising against General Custer and his men in the Battle of Little Bighorn. Due to these heroic deeds, Chief Crazy Horse has received a monument for his bravery and courage. When said and done, the Crazy Horse Monument is supposed to be a part of the largest mountain structures in the world. The head stands 87 feet tall, which is 27 feet taller than Mount Rushmore. Many people are unaware of this when this monument will be finished. The people working on finishing it rely solely on private funds and organizations to get the money needed for the job. However, the government has tried many times to donate money to the fund, but the current owner and his workers have declined due to past involvement with Native Americans. American Indians on reservations today. Today in the U.S., there are almost 5.2 million Native Americans, which is only 22% of them live on reservations. The treatment and conditions on these reservations are terrible, and according to Gallup Independent, they are comparable to the Third World. There are many jobs to be had on the reservation, but these are sadly taken up by government and federal officials, leaving 8 out of 10 people living on the reservation to be unemployed. Most Americans live very well under the poverty line, and most families fit more than 6 people into one home. Health of Native Americans is also not very good. Although it has gotten better in the previous years, the life expectancy still trails general Americans by 5 years. Cancer rates are also a lot higher, and cancer is more common. Native Americans also are 82% more likely to die from suicide than any other race in America.
Overall, treatment of Native Americans has been very inhumane and looked as a terrible, brutal period of time for these Native Americans. These Indians have gone through the hardships of theft, torture, and wars to pretty much fight for their right to land and even freedom. From Little Bighorn to the Battle of Wounded Knee, these people still today have been an example of American history today to always fight for what you or anyone thinks is right. Today, Native Americans still have reservations all across the country. They are treated well, and for school, if they prove they are a true Native American, they can even get a scholarship. Furthermore, Native Americans are looked up to in our society and have earned their right to land and freedom, which is still lasting today.